Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
That guy
fascinating.
has got all the research down on the assemblage point, and you will then totally understand the Platt beyond anything else that you've read.
So I'm fascinated by that stuff actually right now too. It's funny you were like, oh, we could talk about Robert Anton Wilson, and we could. I could talk about the assemblage point, and we could.
Right.
We just finished doing like a study on this Dream Searchers book, which is Russian also, and they basically
Oh
are
boy.
talking about Castaneda. It's Castaneda the whole way. There's this great scene in here where they're kind of having the Morpheus sort of Neo moment, right? They're teaching this guy about dreaming and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and they're talking about and they're just breaking down a bunch of the Castaneda stuff. For me, for whatever reason, I had a really hard time reading Castaneda. It just seemed like this
Yeah.
is a long story, and I was just exhausted. I'm like, give me the goods, bruh, and they're in here. But a
Yeah.
lot of this Russian stuff is very Castaneda
I
influenced.
I would love to talk about Castaneda. I can talk about Castaneda a little bit. Now,
Okay.
there's a recent episode, I don't know if it's come out maybe this week or next,
Okay,
where
cool.
in one of the
Perfect.
channelings with Quo, they asked about Don Juan in is Juan legit? Did he really exist? And Quo said it doesn't matter. It's the same as Jesus and the Buddha. Um, Follow the lessons specifically. The lessons do have that they can apply, and you always can question any lessons that you're getting. Is it talking about manipulating other people? But they almost say it's so advanced. Take it slow. They take the Castaneda stuff slow. I have read some Castaneda on the channel. And then what's super fascinating is if there's been enough research done. Do you remember those old books, the Book of Lists? They used to have, and it was always like you open it up in the 10 tallest guys, or it was like a book of lists,
Okay.
and it was written in that. There's a woman that was one of the writers of those that ended up dating Castaneda, and she wrote about her experience with Castaneda, and she's asking the same question. And then there's I documented this when he disappears. There's people around him that sort of disappeared at the end of their lives, and there's a story where he goes in. Don Juan is guiding him to communicate with the other world and how these energy points without body, and he ends up bringing one of them into this world. It's a girl. And the story is it's like it's kind of he learns how become lucid in his dreaming, and then starts lucidly dreaming with these. But it's dangerous the way that Don Juan says you can get pulled into that world, and then your body is gone, you're sucked into the world. And they try to they can't lie. The beings that he starts to talk with, they can't lie to him. They're just certain things they won't say unless you ask, right? And they want to get you into their world, and they take your energy. And so you sort of get an understanding of how it gets even more advanced, where they're talking about there are entities that sort of feed off of us at death, right? And it's all our past experiences that are kind of like food for us, right? So what Castaneda would be teaching is something called recapitulation. Even went as far as to have you sit in like a coffin or something that resembled a coffin, and you go through your past your life, all the most ridiculous memories, in totally insignificant stuff, trying to recollect all these things back to you. And if you become whole enough, then you can travel on after this life if you've recapitulated. And so he has these stories where Don Juan is like, I want you to start going through your past memories. And he has this really memory. Castaneda tells it like in a novel form about interacting with somebody else, something he had done. And Don Juan says, you now need to give up and do everything in your life to make up for this. And if that means getting rid of all your possessions or everything, you need to do it. And so he goes through, it's part of his journey of understanding. And so there's some really powerful teachings in it, but I'm super fascinated because my interpretation of Castaneda is he is a conglomeration of a group of people that had Toltec teachings, a sort of secret society. He claims crazy stuff like Don Juan had met somebody that had lived since Atlantis, and that he would give he made deals with some of the shamans where he would give their energy, and he would give them something else. And so some of these beings were walking the earth, living for long periods of time. And you don't know what to make of it. And some of it's fascinating. And, but I remember reading the first Castaneda, and, it's just this, randomly, this dude ends up hanging out with this guy, this Indian. Next thing you know, he's doing some drug I haven't heard of, and it gets crazy, right?
Right.
So
right.
that's why it appealed to me so much when I was a kid, when I read that first book, right?
That's
Oh, wow.
crazy. Yeah, no, I mean, that is definitely an intriguing premise, Also sounds like the beginning of like a bad fairy tale or something,
Right. Right.
But no,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you 100% in that, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter where it comes from or if this guy was real
Right.
or a fraud or whatever, because people are so quick to jump on that train and just like disqualify someone's work, just because.
So there's
of
something to the
personal.
teachings.
Yeah.
There's something to the teachings that are I think absolutely applicable, and don't get too caught up in whether or not it's true. You can test these teachings out,
There you go.
and then do what Quo always says. If it doesn't resonate with you, forget about it, right?
Yeah, sure.
But the idea is that we are all living in different realities. They're collections of realities. Your reality is a collection of your past experiences and everything that's going on, and you imagine each of them like a little, very invisible thread. If you understand physics and how things are connected, these threads connect to past other experiences and other realities, sort of defining your reality, and it all kind of gathers together like a ponytail on the back of our head.
Wow.
And then our heart is empowering it. And so if they, as John Wales says, if they can test the location of that assemblage point on somebody that's schizophrenic or that's going insane, a lot of times somebody's assemblage point gets shifted. There's these amazing exercises that he taught in one of his books, Magical Passes, that you do. If you watch it, you're going to start laughing. You can look it up on YouTube. They're all there.
Cool.
And there are these exercises that you do, and they're almost like a weird form of Tai Chi. If you look up the book Magical Passes, Carlos Castaneda, and the girls that are there also had claimed to have met Don Juan, but they never answered any questions when they were asked. And these girls also disappeared. There's one girl that's in the group that also wrote a couple books. And those are interesting too. She talked about her own experiences, but did not talk about Don Juan in those books. But they're in that video of doing the exercises, and they're shifting the assemblage point. It's literally a physical exercise to activate the Plait, and right.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. That's
right.
That's what they're teaching in this book. They're teaching him about the assemblage point in this book, and talking to him about basically how we have sort of two awarenesses. And this goes into dream yoga as well. It links over into that, but Castaneda's work seems to be a little bit more in depth about it.
Right.
But like, think about two partitioned hard drives, right? Like, we're asleep and we remember all the
right.
Because you're like, when you're in that dream state, you're like, of course I'm going to remember this. How could I not? Like, it's so real right now. And then you wake up and you forget about it. And then you come into this reality and you have this memory here. And so we sort of have these partitioned hard drives. And the whole point of this book is to basically undivide those two things so that we're able to use our whole awareness and open up that assemblage point. I think that is like the filter, like that reality tunnel. It's so determined by the position of that assemblage point.
Right.
And that's kind of how we, live, like you said. And I love the sort of like wires, or like the, information kind of coming out of the back of your head. That's crazy. And it's very matrixy.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip. Be sure to check out our Telegram chat and our Facebook group, and all the other links that are down below. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks for checking us out, and catch us on our next big live stream, all right?